Hello brothers and welcome to Sigma Old Man channel. The people you avoid the most always seem to have VIP access to your life. That line isn't just poetic, it's psychological warfare. And for Sigma males, it's practically a daily phenomenon. It sounds bizarre, right? The man who minds his business, guards his solitude like a national treasure, and actively avoids unnecessary connections, somehow becomes a magnet for the very personalities he's trying to escape. But here's the twist. According to behavioral studies, humans chase what feels scarce, unpredictable, and emotionally self-contained. And Sigma males are the full package of that psychological cocktail. They're like a limited edition human NFT, rare, mysterious, and for some reason everyone wants to own one. The irony, while he's quietly plotting his escape from drama, someone is already speed-walking toward him like, "Hey, you seem like someone who can fix my entire emotional history." This isn't coincidence. It's a pattern, a wild, uncomfortable, sometimes hilarious pattern, where the Sigma male's very nature acts as a gravitational pull to the chaotic, the needy, the overly curious, and the existentially bored. Today, we're diving into why Sigma males attract the exact people they're actively avoiding. The clingy, the chaotic, the overly observant, and the ones who smell emotional independence like sharks smell blood in water. Buckle up, this will explain a lot. Number 1, he holds his energy like it has value, and people believe him. Sigma males move through life with a kind of quiet certainty that their time, attention, and emotional energy are not up for casual distribution. They don't announce it, they don't brag about it, and they definitely don't perform it. They simply live it. And when someone consistently treats their own energy like it's worth something, people eventually start believing it too, sometimes a little too much. Most people are used to others stretching themselves thin just to be liked, noticed, or accepted. But a Sigma male doesn't play that game. He doesn't over-explain, chase validation, or jump through hoops to prove he belongs. His energy is clean and controlled, almost like he's protecting a rare internal flame. And because he invests it carefully, people feel the weight of every second he gives them, even if it's accidental. This creates a strange psychological effect. People begin to value him more than he values the interaction itself. They read meaning into his silence. They take his minimal attention as something profound. They start to believe that earning a moment of his time somehow elevates them. It's not because he's trying to be difficult or mysterious. It's simply because he treats himself with the kind of respect most people never learn to embody. The result? He becomes a walking scarcity signal. Humans are wired to chase what feels limited, whether it's exclusive access, rare opportunities, or people who don't hand out their energy like free samples. The more he conserves himself, the more others lean in. His restraint makes people curious. His boundaries make people hungry. His selectiveness makes even the most self-assured individuals wonder, why isn't he trying to impress me? And that curiosity turns into pursuit. People end up circling his life not because he's loud or flashy, but because he radiates an inner conviction that says, I don't need to be everywhere. And ironically, that's exactly why everyone wants to be where he is. Number 2, he gives people internal whiplash. Sigma males have a way of interacting with people that feels completely unforced, yet utterly destabilizing. They aren't trying to manipulate, play games, or make anyone uncomfortable. They simply exist in a way that exposes the inconsistencies, insecurities, and shallow patterns of those around them. For many, being around a Sigma male feels like a mental reset, except the reset isn't soothing, it's jarring. Their calm, composed presence reflects a level of self-mastery that makes others suddenly confront the messiness in their own lives. That confrontation can feel like emotional whiplash. Most people are used to predictable reactions. They expect praise for effort, validation for opinion, or acknowledgement for attention-seeking behavior. But a Sigma male operates differently. He doesn't give the usual responses. He doesn't overreact, he doesn't get offended, and he doesn't bend to social pressures. His emotional consistency forces others to adjust, to reflect, and often to stumble through self-awareness they weren't prepared for. That disruption is uncomfortable, and yet, paradoxically, it makes people gravitate toward him. Humans are instinctively drawn to what challenges them, even when it feels destabilizing. This internal whiplash isn't about cruelty, it's about presence. His boundaries, self-reliance, and lack of neediness act like a mirror, revealing exactly where people are off balance. Some feel exposed, some feel inadequate, and some feel motivated. But all of them feel the pull. He makes them confront truths about themselves without uttering a single judgment. And because humans are wired to seek resolution, they stay close, hoping proximity will help them stabilize themselves, or even absorb a fraction of his clarity. What makes it fascinating is that Sigma males rarely notice the effect they have. They aren't performing, they are simply operating on a higher plane of emotional integrity. But that integrity is magnetic. The whiplash they induce draws people like moths to a flame, and once they've felt it, they can't forget it. It leaves a mark, uncomfortable, addictive, and impossible to ignore. Number 3, people sense. He isn't impressed, and that triggers their competitiveness. Sigma males have a quiet power that isn't loud or performative, but it's impossible to ignore. One of their most magnetic traits is their indifference. They don't flatter, they don't over-explain, and they don't scramble for approval. They simply move through life with confidence in their own standards, and that lack of neediness creates a powerful psychological ripple. People around them immediately notice. He isn't impressed, and for some reason that feels like a challenge. Humans are instinctively wired to seek validation, but when someone clearly doesn't give it freely, it awakens a deep, primal competitiveness. Most people are used to winning approval with charm, effort, or influence. But a Sigma male doesn't operate on those rules. He doesn't hand out validation like candy, and that refusal forces others to step up, overthink, or compete in ways they never expected. Suddenly, getting noticed or earning his acknowledgement becomes a game they didn't agree to play, and that makes them chase harder. This effect isn't about arrogance or manipulation on the Sigma's part. He isn't trying to provoke anyone. He simply doesn't care to impress. But in a world where most people are constantly fishing for attention, his emotional neutrality becomes magnetic. People feel compelled to measure themselves against him, to prove they're worthy of his respect, even though he never demanded it. It's a form of psychological gravity. The less he moves for others, the more they move toward him, trying to fill a void he deliberately keeps empty. The result is almost poetic. His indifference triggers desire, pursuit, and competition all at once. People become obsessed not with who he is in reality, but with the idea that they can achieve a level of significance in his eyes, and in that pursuit, they reveal themselves in ways they never would around someone who was easy to impress. The Sigma male doesn't chase, doesn't flaunt, and doesn't explain. He simply exists, and that existence alone turns human competitiveness into a magnet that pulls everyone toward him. Number 4, he is the one person who doesn't need them. And humans crave being needed by the unavailable Sigma. Males exist in a way that's quietly terrifying to most people. They are completely self-sufficient. Their lives, their routines, their goals, and their emotional stability do not depend on anyone else. They aren't seeking approval, attention, or validation from the people around them. They don't get flustered when someone leaves, and they don't bend themselves to keep others close. Their independence isn't performative. It's absolute. And that absolute self-reliance is magnetic in a way most people can't resist. The darkest and most ironic truth about human psychology is this: people are drawn to those who don't need them. Most individuals crave importance, validation, and a sense of being indispensable. But when they encounter someone whose existence is unaffected by their presence, it flips a switch. Suddenly they feel an intense urge to matter to that person, even when logically they know they already won't. It's a paradoxical pull. The very thing they can't earn becomes the object of obsession. Being around a Sigma male forces people to confront their own dependency, neediness, and emotional insecurities. He doesn't fill gaps, he doesn't compromise, and he doesn't negotiate his attention. His energy is finite, and he chooses where to invest it, not based on obligation, but on alignment. This makes him simultaneously intimidating and irresistible. Humans instinctively try to insert themselves into his world, to earn a place they weren't offered. They pursue him not because he wants them there, but because his lack of need exposes a challenge they feel compelled to overcome. In essence, people chase him because he is proof of a life completely untethered from them. His indifference doesn't push them away, it pulls them in. They aren't chasing him to satisfy his needs. They are chasing him to satisfy their own, to feel significance and relevance in the presence of someone who doesn't need it. And that is the ultimate power of a Sigma male. He is untouchable in his independence, yet irresistibly magnetic, because he reminds people of what they most desperately crave: to matter to someone who doesn't have to notice them. Number 5, his absence feels more intense than most people's presence. Sigma males have a presence that isn't loud or performative, but it lingers in a way most people can't ignore. Unlike others who rely on constant chatter, flashy behavior, or social validation to mark their importance, Sigma males operate on a subtler, almost gravitational level. Their energy isn't something people can grasp in real time. It's something they feel, and it leaves a space that most others can't fill. When a Sigma male steps back, even briefly, it creates a void. Most people are used to overcompensation. If someone disappears, they move on, replace them, or fill the space with noise. But with a Sigma male, the gap is different. It isn't just absence. It's a vacuum of influence, calm, and authenticity that people subconsciously notice. The mind recognizes what's missing, even if it can't articulate it. That missing energy pulls attention like a magnet, creating curiosity, longing, and an almost unconscious desire to reconnect. This effect doesn't come from manipulation or deliberate withdrawal. He isn't trying to be missed. He simply exists on a level where his presence and absence carry weight. Most people operate on social scripts, needing applause, acknowledgement, or attention to validate themselves. Sigma males don't. Their energy is self-contained, and the world feels that immediately. When he steps away, the contrast between his calm, measured existence and the chaotic or overstimulated energy around him becomes glaringly obvious. The result is almost paradoxical. People feel drawn to him more when he's not there than when he is. They chase the memory of his presence, the clarity he radiates, the stability he brings, and the way he silently sets the standard for how energy should flow. His absence isn't emptiness, it's a gravitational force. People are pulled toward it because the human mind and heart instinctively seek what feels rare, grounded, and undeniable. A Sigma male doesn't demand attention, but the world notices anyway. Number 6, their emotional ambiguity becomes a psychological puzzle. Sigma males are masters of emotional subtlety. They don't wear their hearts on their sleeves, they don't dramatize feelings, and they don't hand out reactions like candy. To most people, this creates an almost maddening ambiguity. His emotional frequency isn't erratic, but it's carefully measured and hard to read. That unpredictability doesn't feel unsafe. It feels intriguing. Humans are naturally wired to resolve tension, to fill in gaps, and when someone like a Sigma male presents an emotional puzzle, the mind latches onto it with near-obsessive focus. He is unresolved tension in human form. His lack of overexposure forces others to engage their curiosity, imagination, and interpretation. Every interaction carries multiple possibilities. Every word, glance, or silence is open to interpretation. People instinctively try to decode him, to understand the why behind his reactions, and the harder he is to decipher, the more addictive the pursuit becomes. This isn't intentional manipulation. It's simply a byproduct of his self-possession and refusal to overshare. Most people are predictable emotionally. They reward attention with attention, give affection for affection, and respond according to social scripts. A Sigma male doesn't follow those scripts. He isn't cold, but he is contained. That containment is magnetic. It forces people to confront their own expectations, assumptions, and the discomfort of not knowing. That discomfort, paradoxically, draws them closer. The human mind craves closure, and he offers none, keeping people in a state of subtle suspense. This emotional ambiguity becomes a silent power. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about being fundamentally self-contained while allowing others to project, wonder, and chase. People are drawn in because solving the puzzle feels rewarding even when it's impossible. And in the process, they become attached, not just to him, but to the challenge, the tension, and the rare clarity that emerges only when he chooses to reveal it. A Sigma male doesn't need to explain himself. His emotional opacity is magnetic enough to make people linger, endlessly curious. Number 7, they broadcast a silent boundary. Most people think they can break. Sigma males carry a quiet, unmistakable energy that signals without words where their limits lie. They don't need to verbalize every rule, state every line in the sand, or announce their boundaries in dramatic fashion. Their presence alone communicates what is acceptable and what isn't. Yet, the very subtlety of these silent boundaries often has the opposite effect on certain people. Instead of seeing them as lines to respect, these personalities interpret the restraint as a challenge, something to test, push, or conquer. This happens because most people are conditioned to respond only to explicit signals. If someone doesn't fight for attention, if someone doesn't plead, argue, or dramatize, the mind starts filling in the gaps. A Sigma male's composed withdrawal is mistaken for shyness, insecurity, or even a game. People who thrive on control, manipulation, or conquest instinctively assume that hidden behind that quiet energy is a vulnerability waiting to be cracked. And so they engage, push, and chase, not realizing that the boundary isn't just a line, it's a fortress. The irony is that the Sigma male rarely changes his behavior in response to these tests. He doesn't escalate, he doesn't over-explain, and he certainly doesn't indulge the drama. His silent strength isn't reactive, it's consistent, and yet the very constancy, the refusal to bend or perform, often draws the wrong kind of attention. People are drawn to what resists them, fascinated by the puzzle of someone who doesn't behave predictably. They mistake independence for a challenge to overcome, not a principle to honor. This phenomenon makes Sigma males magnetic in unexpected ways. The more they protect their energy, the more certain people are compelled to probe it. And while most would retreat from such scrutiny, the Sigma male simply continues to exist on his own terms. His boundaries are immovable, but his silence invites fascination. He doesn't need to fight to maintain control. The allure comes from the fact that he is untouchable, even while the world mistakes that untouchability for an invitation. Number 8, their disciplined distance signals. Rare self-ownership. Sigma males move through life with a sense of self-possession that most people can't even recognize, let alone replicate. In a world where so many outsource their identity to social trends, peer approval, or fleeting validations, his autonomy stands out like a beacon. He doesn't bend to popularity, he doesn't mirror opinions to fit in, and he doesn't perform for recognition. Every decision, every interaction, and every boundary reflects a deeply ingrained self-governance that is rare, almost alien, to the average observer. This disciplined distance is magnetic. People notice when someone's life isn't dictated by external chaos or validation seeking. There's an unspoken allure to someone who is fully in control of themselves because it contrasts sharply with the rest of the world's noise. His independence signals a kind of value that isn't bought, borrowed, or copied. It is inherently earned and inherently his. Observers instinctively recognize it as something precious, a rare luxury they don't have access to and can't manufacture. What makes this dynamic fascinating is that the Sigma male rarely advertises his autonomy. He doesn't lecture on independence, he doesn't showcase it on social media, and he doesn't make anyone feel inferior. It simply radiates from him in the way he moves, speaks, and exists. People can't help but notice, and because it's rare, they are drawn in. They want access, proximity, or even validation by association, hoping a fraction of that self-ownership will rub off on them. In essence, his disciplined distance is a quiet form of power. It creates fascination without effort, desire without invitation, and respect without demand. The world, conditioned to measure worth externally, instinctively chases the one person who measures it internally. A Sigma male's self-governance doesn't just attract attention. It makes him untouchable, yet irresistible, precisely because it is his alone. Number 9. His non-reactivity exposes other people's internal noise. One of the most disarming qualities of a Sigma male is his non-reactivity. He doesn't mirror drama, he doesn't escalate tension, and he doesn't get caught up in emotional theatrics. His responses are measured, minimal, and deliberate, which creates a kind of psychological ripple effect. When people engage with him, they are forced to confront the chaos within themselves, the insecurities, overreactions, and unresolved emotions that usually go unnoticed or are ignored by others. Suddenly, in his calm presence, their own internal noise feels impossibly loud. Most people are accustomed to interacting with individuals who validate their emotions, feed their ego, or respond predictably. The Sigma male refuses to participate in these loops. He doesn't try to soothe, appease, or explain. He simply maintains his equilibrium. And that stark contrast exposes the inconsistencies in others' behavior. It's like holding up a mirror that doesn't distort, flattering, or excuse. It just shows them raw, unfiltered truth about their own emotional state. This exposure is uncomfortable, but it's also strangely compelling. People instinctively seek to quiet the chaos they suddenly become aware of, and often they look to the Sigma male as the source of that calm. They chase him not because he created the noise, but because his stability makes them painfully aware of it, and they hope proximity to him will somehow fix it. His non-reactivity forces self-reflection, which is difficult, unfamiliar, and addictive. The irony is that he isn't intentionally therapeutic. He isn't there to fix anyone. His neutrality simply amplifies what's already inside them. And because humans are wired to seek balance and resolution, they are drawn back to him repeatedly, chasing the clarity he embodies. In essence, his emotional restraint acts like a magnet. It doesn't demand attention, but it reveals what people secretly crave, the chance to confront, understand, and if they can, tame their own internal chaos through the silent example of his composed presence. Number 10, he becomes the emotional mirror. They can't manipulate. Sigma males have a rare and unsettling quality. They reflect reality without distortion. Unlike most people, who bend, perform, or lie to make others feel comfortable, a Sigma male remains steadfastly himself. He doesn't soften truths, dramatize responses, or warp his emotions to placate others. This creates a unique dynamic. When people interact with him, they are confronted with a reflection of themselves that is honest, unfiltered, and impossible to control. Most people are accustomed to manipulating social mirrors. They expect others to adapt, validate, or obscure the truth in ways that protect fragile egos. But the Sigma male's presence dismantles these illusions. He doesn't confirm delusions, he doesn't play along with pretenses, and he doesn't react to ego-driven theatrics. The result is an emotional mirror that reflects not who they want to be, but who they truly are, flaws, insecurities, and all. This reflection is both frightening and magnetic. Humans are instinctively drawn to what reveals truth, even when it's uncomfortable. They chase him because proximity to that mirror offers clarity, growth, or at least confrontation with the parts of themselves they habitually ignore. The very act of seeing themselves clearly, without distortion or flattery, triggers a strange mixture of fascination, obsession, and need. The Sigma male isn't trying to teach a lesson, and he isn't performing psychological tricks. His authenticity is effortless, and that effortless honesty forces others to face the discrepancy between who they are and who they present themselves to be. That confrontation is addictive because it's rare, illuminating, and impossible to manipulate. People don't just want him, they want the reflection he provides. And since he cannot be bent, bought, or softened, they keep returning, drawn to the clarity and truth that only he can reflect. In essence, his presence forces honesty, in them and around him. And the unflinching reality of that mirror is something most cannot resist. Number 11, his priorities exclude people, which makes people want inclusion. Sigma males live by their own internal compass, guided by purpose, curiosity, and self-defined priorities, rather than social expectation. They don't bend their schedules, energy, or focus to accommodate the whims of others, and they rarely adjust their life to make people feel needed or included. Most people are used to constant access and availability, so when someone deliberately chooses their own path and excludes them, it creates a sense of scarcity that is immediately magnetic. Humans are wired to desire what they cannot easily obtain. When the Sigma male's attention is selective, it becomes a rare currency. People begin to chase him not because he needs them, but because they perceive his time, focus, or acknowledgement as valuable, precisely because it is limited. The very act of exclusion signals worth. In a world where everyone can be reached instantly, someone who reserves themselves and their energy becomes a prize without even trying. This dynamic isn't intentional on the Sigma male's part. He isn't plotting to make people chase him or proving his value. He simply prioritizes himself and the things that align with his mission. And that self-containment forces others to notice what they usually take for granted: the weight of someone who is not available on demand. The scarcity creates desire. People want what they cannot have, and being included in his life, even in small ways, suddenly feels significant. By holding firm to his priorities, he sets a standard few can match. The very boundaries that protect his energy also amplify his allure. The more he excludes, the more people are drawn in, hoping for proximity, recognition, or a moment of access. In effect, his selective attention transforms his life into a magnet. He doesn't need to perform, persuade, or explain, yet the world instinctively leans toward him, craving what he is freely choosing not to give. Number 12. He restores a sense of mystery in a world addicted to exposure. In a world where oversharing has become the default, most people expose every thought, feeling, and action to gain connection, validation, or attention. Transparency is celebrated, and privacy is often mistaken for weakness or secrecy. A Sigma male, however, operates on the exact opposite wavelength. He reveals almost nothing about himself, not out of arrogance, but because he doesn't need to perform for approval or fit into the constant social feedback loop. This creates a profound imbalance that the human mind can't help but fixate on. His restraint is magnetic. People are drawn to what they cannot fully understand or predict. In a society addicted to exposure, the Sigma male's quiet composure and controlled self-disclosure act like a puzzle others feel compelled to solve. Every gesture, every word, and every glance carries weight, because the scarcity of information amplifies its significance. Humans are wired to chase patterns, and when someone consistently defies being decoded, that chase becomes irresistible. The fascination he generates isn't superficial. It borders on obsession, because the mystery he embodies challenges the very instinct for certainty that drives human behavior. People don't just want to know him. They want to understand him, earn his attention, and gain insight into the life he keeps mostly to himself. This pursuit is intoxicating because it's not a game of social dominance or ego. It's a primal curiosity triggered by rarity and authenticity. By revealing so little, he forces others to confront their own projections, assumptions, and desires. The scarcity of access makes every interaction feel significant, elevating his presence far beyond mere social influence. The Sigma male doesn't need to impress or entertain. His mystery does all the work. In a world drowning in exposure, his restraint becomes a magnet, and the intrigue it creates ensures that people will keep returning, trying to unravel a puzzle that will, more often than not, remain beautifully unsolved. Conclusion. Sigma males are a paradox in human form. They withdraw, protect their energy, and navigate life on their own terms. Yet the very qualities that make them elusive also make them magnetic. Their independence, emotional clarity, and quiet self-possession create forces that draw people in, even those they are actively avoiding. From their non-reactivity to their disciplined boundaries, from their emotional ambiguity to their selective attention, every trait acts as an unspoken signal that is impossible to ignore. People are drawn to what they cannot control, fascinated by what resists manipulation, and obsessed with what feels rare and unattainable. The truth is, Sigma males don't chase validation, approval, or attention. They aren't interested in being the center of anyone's world. And yet, their very existence exposes the insecurities, desires, and contradictions of everyone around them. They reveal the gaps between who people think they are and who they really are. Their absence is felt more strongly than most people's presence, and their presence leaves a mark that lingers long after they are gone. The paradoxical allure of a Sigma male is that they are untouchable yet unforgettable, self-contained yet irresistible, distant yet central in the emotional gravity of those who encounter them. For anyone observing this phenomenon, it's more than a curiosity. It's a lesson in human psychology. People chase Sigma males not because of what they do, but because of who they are, independent, authentic, and unapologetically themselves. They remind us that the power of presence doesn't come from visibility, performance, or approval. It comes from self-mastery, clarity, and the courage to exist fully on your own terms. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more insights into the Sigma mind and behaviors that defy ordinary understanding. Like this video if it challenged what you thought about attraction, share it with someone who needs to understand this magnetic dynamic, and leave a comment telling us which Sigma trait fascinates you the most. Stay tuned, because the world of Sigma psychology only gets deeper, more intriguing, and far more revealing the more you explore it.